guys, so this is a follow-up to the post that I wrote last night about doing your Module 1 milestone reviews. If you started working on the reviews, you've probably noticed that NetBeans can make it a bit difficult to run your classmates' code, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I've created this piece of code that I'm going to put into a jar file to demonstrate what's going on here. It's just a little Hello World program, nothing out of the ordinary. Obviously not a complete Module 1 milestone program, but good enough just to demonstrate. It's just going to print out Hello World. And so I'm going to generate a jar file from this. I actually already have. And I'm going to use that to kind of do a mock milestone review. So what I would recommend that you do for these reviews is actually create a new NetBeans project just for the purpose of reviewing. So I'm going to click New Project, Java Application, and I'm just going to name it Module 1 Milestone Review. And I will not need a main class for this, at least initially. I'm just going to create it as an empty project. All right, so here's my new project where I'm going to load in your code for review. Nothing and no source code yet, and nothing in the libraries except for the default Java libraries. So what I stated in the previous videos about working with jars, what you need to do in order to access the code in the jar is to add it to your project libraries. So I have a jar file already generated, which I will add to the libraries for this project, and it's out on my desktop. It just names module1milestone.jar. And with that added to my libraries, I can open it up and I can view the source code, which is great. I can evaluate that, the source code looks okay. I can evaluate what I understand or what needs to be improved. But NetBeans will not allow me to run this source code despite the fact that it includes a main method. We can see here there's a valid main method, and this should be runnable. It's not. So what I want to walk through real quick is a few different ways that you could get around to running your classmates' code. Running the code is not really the most important part of the milestone review, but it can definitely go a long ways towards helping you understand if something works a certain way. Maybe you're looking at your classmates' code and you don't really understand if or how something works, and running the code can certainly help you do that. And so we need to come up with a way to actually accomplish running the code from the jar file. The first solution is to just take the code out of the jar file, extract the code, the source code from the jar file. You could, of course, highlight all of the code inside the Java source and do a copy and then paste that into a new .java file, which for a small project like this with just one Java file would be pretty quick, but it's not what I would recommend for the later milestones where we're going to have dozens or more classes floating around that you would need to copy and paste over. It just won't be worth the time and energy to do that, to copy and paste each class over manually. One thing that you'll want to consider is if you have an archive manager program like WinRAR, that's WinRAR, if you have that installed on your computer, and here's the jar file here. If I right click on this jar file and I have WinRAR installed, WinRAR allows you to extract the contents of a jar file. So here I can do extract to module 1 milestone. And we can see that it created a new folder. And inside that folder is the code that was contained inside. So what I can actually do with this, and if I had a whole bunch of .java files, actually I could just grab the whole package. Grab the whole package, copy, and then go into NetBeans. I stand corrected, it won't let me, maybe if I drag and drop. Okay, so drag and drop of the folder will work. I don't know why I copy and paste wouldn't. But now I actually have the original source code from the jar file in the source packages area of NetBeans. And by doing that, it will allow me to select that main method and run that code. So that's one possible workaround. I'm going to get rid of this for now. So if you can extract the contents of the jar file using a program like WinRAR, that's one way. Another solution that's pretty straightforward, if you're familiar with your operating system's command line tools, so in Windows, the cmd.exe, the Windows command prompt, you can use the command line tools to navigate to the directory where the jar is located, and then run a pretty simple command, java space -jar, and then let's see here, what was the name of the file? That's my module 1 milestone .jar. So this command right here basically tells Java to execute the designated main method that it encounters inside this jar file. So just by running that command, it will run the Java program through your operating system's command line shell. So if you're familiar enough with your operating system's command line, you can navigate to where the file is located and run this simple command. That's one way to accomplish the task. And if you really want to run the code in NetBeans, there's another workaround to consider, which is that your classmate's code is going to be run off of a main method, and that main method can be called just like any other main method in Java. So we can treat this main method, even though NetBeans won't allow us to run it, we can call it as a method in our own source package. So inside the source packages folder for my review project, I'm just going to make a new Java class called launcher. And inside the launcher class, I will create my own main method. And NetBeans will allow me to run this main method. So inside this main method, I can call the main method from the jar file. And I can pass this string array as a parameter, or it can just be null. It doesn't actually matter for our purposes. So you can invoke the main method from the jar file directly inside of your own main method, which seems like a strange workaround, but until you remember that the main method is a method just like any other method. There's nothing special about it other than that Java will try to run it by default. And so this also accomplishes running the code, and it does it inside of NetBeans, which can be especially helpful if you would like to use the NetBeans debugger on your classmate's code. There is one more more advanced solution, but I want to show it because we're going to be doing a number of these milestones, and so basically for each milestone you're going to review 2 different classmates, and each time you want to review a different classmate's code, you have to change this package name. So now if I'm reviewing, John Smith's code, I have to change this package name to John Smith's username, and I have to have this jar imported, obviously. I may also have to change the class name. so that it calls the main method from the appropriate class. That's not too bad. It's not too much work. There is a slightly more complicated approach. I'm going to create, I'll call it complex launcher. Basically going to start out the same way. But what I'm going to do with this launcher is I'm going to make it a little interactive. So first I'm going to prompt for the username. For a scanner there. First I'm going to prompt for the username. And then the main class name. So this is like a little wrapper program. It's going to allow us to change whose code we want to run. So if you, this is actually a technique that I use for grading. I'll import everyone's jar file into one project, and I'll make this little launcher program to so that I can provide your username and the name of your main class, and it will run your code for me without having to extract it from the jar. This next part is where things get a little bit tricky, and we will talk about some of these techniques later on in the course, but for right now, if this stuff kind of flies over your head, it's okay. These are some significantly advanced Java techniques that I'm going to be showing. You can call Java code by name using what they call reflection references. So basically what that means is we are going to ask Java to give us a reference to the class inside of a particular package. Not too bad. Call this class reference. And I'll explain the statement in a second. So this class.forMain method is a core method of Java that allows us to load a class with this name, including the package name. So you can see I put the dot in there to differentiate that the username is the name of the package, and then we have a dot, and then we have the name of the class that we want to obtain a reference to. So this is going to create a reference to that class. This is not creating an object from that class. This is obtaining a reference to the class itself. Again, don't worry if this is going way ahead in terms of covering topics, so we will circle back on this. The class.forMain method can throw an exception. So I'm just going to add that throws clause to the main method, which means it'll crash the program if this class could not be loaded successfully. The next thing that we will need to obtain a reference to is the actual main method itself. So just like you can obtain a reference to a class, you can obtain a reference to an actual method as well. So this is our main method reference. And we can accomplish this by taking the class reference and calling its getDeclared method. So we're using a method to get a reference to a method. We want a reference to the method main. and this part's kind of funky. We need to tell Java that the main method that we are looking for has a string array parameter, a single string array parameter, which all main methods do. All main methods have a string array parameter. This is just the syntax for specifying that you are looking for a main method with a string array parameter. Right, and I need to import the method class. And this can also throw a couple of possible exceptions. It can throw an exception if the method doesn't exist. So we need to add that to our throws declaration as well. Once we have a method reference to the method, call the invoke method. Oops, excuse me. Call the invoke method on that reference, and the parameters to the invoke method can be null, which I'll explain when we come back to this technique later on in the course. But calling invoke on a reference to a method just calls that method. This can also throw some exceptions, a few different ones actually, so I will add all of those. Okay. And I don't want to cast, I guess it's going to make me cast that. All right, let's see if this works. Maybe I typoed something. But in any case, oops, I need to specify that this is now the main method that I want to run. There we go. All right, so the name of the package is still Hoffman Z. The name of the main class is still main app. And there we go. So what this is doing is it's reading in Hoffman Z as the username variable. It's reading in main app as the class name variable. It's getting a reference to the class hoffmanz.mainApp. Then from that class, it is getting a reference to its main method. Once we have the reference to that main method, we can call invoke on it. So the benefit of this is that you can actually reuse this for multiple milestone reviews. Once you've set this up, you only have to set it up once, and you just type in a different package name and a different class name depending on what your classmate submits. So normally the package name would be their LCC username, of course. On the other hand, you can just use this simple one-line launcher and change the package that you are calling as needed. Okay, so there's a few different approaches towards dealing with the problem of running your classmates' code. Hopefully, you can work out which one kind of makes the most sense for you. And if you run into any problems with any of these methods, feel free to throw a question up on the discussion board. And that's it.